Good afternoon, happy Friday, and welcome to this week's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Shaynel Caldwell, founder and executive director of Our Blended Families. And hopefully you enjoyed that nice introduction. We are certainly want to acknowledge and pay tribute to the late, great Aretha Franklin, since she recently passed this week. She was truly an icon for the music industry and also for the civil rights movement. It was one of those things that if you were born during that time, if you were coming up during that time, you recognize that music was truly a foundation for all the things that people went through. I know working in the criminal justice system for a long time, they told us that music really does soothe the savage beast. And during the time that I worked in the probation department, we actually played music during the time that our guests / clients / inmates were actually eating. And so that's kind of a little borderline, but showing you how music really impacts people and how it actually can be instrumental and healthy to our lives. We also want to take a quick reflection back on this week and some of the events that happened this week. One of my favorite was the whole issue with Miss Omarosa. And so many of you followed her on The Apprentice, and then of course her ascension and decline from her time in the White House. I thought that this was very impactful, that while we were trying to figure out whether or not the Russians were hacking our election, whether or not the Russians were hacking the White House, guess what? It was Omarosa. She was recording all these things. And so I'm watching with my popcorn and my soda to see how this plays out on whether or not, one, was she actually able to record these things, aside from the fact that she had an NDA, but whether or not you're supposed to be able to bring these recording devices into these private meetings within our government. Third note, as we move down, it's Omarosa. Most of us that look like me had some issues with her. One, she was a little bit sassy. She was a little bit brash. We couldn't tell because she jumped from one side of being a Democrat to the other side of being a Republican. But all things, still a very successful and popular businesswoman. So that's one thing we also watched this week with Omarosa. And the second thing that we watched, if you're part of the DMV, we also watched the incident with the Baltimore police officer that was caught on tape accosting a gentleman up in Baltimore. I believe the last news incident that I read was that the district attorney down there, the beautiful, lovely woman, and unfortunately her name escapes me right now, but they're actually pressing charges against him. So that has also opened up the aperture for discussions within our community. Is it just black cops or is it just white cops that are assaulting black individuals? Whether or not they've been found guilty, because you can't be found guilty on the street. You can be accused of something, you can make allegations, but you can't be found guilty. So are we still looking at possible corruption within law enforcement community for black on black crime as opposed to white on black crime? So again, a lot of things going on in society, a lot of things that happened this week. And as we say, we want you to definitely be informed, stay educated, make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in your community. If there are community forums or community groups or meetings that are being held inside your churches, please attend. Make sure you know how to take action if you need to take action, and make sure you know what's going on, because these are things that not only affect your community, but they can legitimately affect your next door neighbor and eventually your household. So again, we want to say thank you for tuning in. We're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we will be joined by my two special guests today. We're going to be talking about all things. It's back to school time. So if you have kids at home, I know you're ready to get rid of them and get them out of the house. And in this area, of course, school starting a little bit earlier. But again, we'll be talking about that when we come back from the break. We'll see you back here shortly.
I want to learn how to do. Everybody's doing it. The young and the old, from the north to the south, and from the east to the west. I want to know how to do it. I want to know how to hand dance. Show me how to do it. I want to know, can you teach me? Can you teach me how to hand dance? Can you show me how to do it? I want to know how to hand dance. Show me how to do it. I want to know how to hand dance. Show me how to do it. I like the way you move. I like the way you groove. I like the way you groove. I like the way you spin. I like the way you spin. It's about time for me to get on the floor and stop being so lazy. Teach me how to do it. I like the way you move. I like the way you groove. I like the way you groove. I like the way you groove. I like the way you spin. I like the way you spin. You turn around, do it again. Do it again and again. Do it again. Can you believe it? Again and again. I think I almost got it. I wanna know. All over the world, everybody talking about it. I got to know how to do it. I got to know how to do it. Can you teach me? Can you teach me? Can you teach me? Can you teach me how to hand dance? I got to know. I got to know. I want to know how to do it. I like the way you move. I like the way you move. I like the way you groove. I like the way you groove.
Welcome back to Shaynel's 3 Cents. This week, my two special, beautiful guests are Miss Candace Ali and Miss Shar Robinson. Say hey.
Hello. Hey.
So, of course, what we're going to be talking about is getting your kids ready to go back to school. And I thought that, one, this was a timely subject for us to talk about. One, because it is back to school time. And more importantly, the goal is to make sure that we are adequately preparing our kids. Success ranges on different levels. But as parents and as conscious parents, you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to make sure that your kids are prepared. Candace, you want to tell us a little bit about your beautiful, beautiful student and tell us where she is right now?
Well, she's in college. She's going to school for culinary school. Ooh. And I say right now, make sure you get all that scholarship money prepared because it's not cheap.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And Shar, you have a student in college right now?
I do have a student in college, and her name is Passion, and she's looking at me. She is a senior now at Bowie University, and she's studying journalism and videography, and she's actually already started her videography business, and I'm excited that she's excited.
Yay!
Amen.
Yay!
Purpose.
She actually created a commercial for Shaynel's 3 Cents, and hopefully we'll be able to debut it next week. So.
And a documentary for her mom.
Y'all know I gotta laugh at my sister. But I think it's important to say that while we all have kids in college, and I'm sorry, I forgot to announce my little one. I have two kids. My youngest daughter is still in college. Andrea, hey, Boo Boo Bear. She is entering her junior year at Concordia University, where she is studying nursing. She is studying to get her nurse practitioner certification so that she can prescribe me meds when I get old. I mean, did I say the nurse? Yeah. But again, the goal is not, one, to support them and to make sure that we're able to hopefully give you some encouraging and enriching advice about how to make sure that your kids are successful. Because while we're talking about this, we also have kids in our family and young people that we've taken this journey with that not only made it to college, but unfortunately had to walk away from college. And so hopefully you can learn some of the lessons that we learned as parents, and then of course be able to share some of the information about upcoming children that you may have in your family that are in elementary school or junior high or high school that are also preparing to get started. So we're going to start with Candace first to tell us a little bit about how, when did your daughter get these culinary dreams and when she decided that she wanted to go to culinary school? Was she still in high school, or was this a childhood dream?
Well, actually, we went through a journey of different things before we decided culinary, and I actually had her decide. So that was the most important part.
You know, so you didn't put you didn't impact your, put your stuff on your daughter?
Exactly. But I did let her know it was going to be expensive and it's going to be on her.
Okay.
So, because everything that they sign, they sign in their name more so than ours. Because a lot of times when you go into college, you'll find out that the administrators are talking directly to your child. They're not talking to you anymore. Because when they sign those papers, they're looking at, you know, they just completely kind of remove you
Did you feel offended? Because I felt offended too when.
I mean, I tried to jump in, but yeah, I had to be there, but I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was present. It was different. Yeah, I did feel offended.
Yeah, I have a niece. She started when classes started first. She moved into the dorm on Wednesday. She just started at Central State University up in Ohio, and going through the process with her, going to her. What do they call it? The orientation. You know, I was like, and again, they're like, would you be quiet, lady? We're not talking to you. So I felt some kind of way about that. So go ahead.
They have to get them independent, and that's important. We have to let them out of the nest, and they have to understand the responsibility when it comes to the classes. They have to somehow pay something. You know, because sometimes kids get into college and it's all expense paid, and they take advantage of it. They take it for granted. So I guess it's a way for us for them to force us to let go at that very moment, because eventually we're not going to be able to understand what was going on in school. They're going to have to make the decisions about their friends. They're going to have to make decisions whether they're going to go to class or not. And there's nothing.
Since there are no bells that ring anymore, time to go to class.
Exactly. You have a syllabus, so you have to make sure you get your work done on time. So it's a lot of responsibilities that the parents, you know, a lot of us have already been to school. So if you decide to take that journey with your child again, you'll be through school all over again. And they try to avoid that happening. So.
Okay, let me take a break real quick and go to Shar, because I like what you said, because I think that's something that that I promote, making sure that your kids are self-invested so that they understand that they essentially have some skin in the game. If I mess this up, this will follow me. So you want to share a little bit about how your kids got into college, or you know, how they figured out whether or not they were going to go and whether or not they were going to put some money into the game?
I have 3 children, and they're all very different. I'll focus on one. Passion. Passion was just all in when it came to going to college. I mean, she had a basketball scholarship to Morgan University, and she thought that it was like her soulmate school when we first started the program. And sad to say that by the end of the year, she decided she didn't want to play basketball anymore or go to Morgan University, but she's Morgan State University, but now that experience, I think, just molded her into finding out what her real purpose was, because she had no idea that she had I don't know, passion. Do you have a passion for videography or photography? Because I'm not sure if she found her passion yet, but she did find her interest, and that's what's important in this segment, for me to let you know that she did find her interest, and she's running with the passion to pursue it, because she's very motivated and everybody's been using her, and our support is helping her to stay motivated and stay in the game of learning new things and trying new things. I mean, she's talking about getting a YouTube page, and the website she's developing, and all the help that she's been offering other people in our community is just amazing. That through the process of just saying, yes, I want to go to school and accepting the scholarship, but now I'm becoming my own woman, and I know what I want for myself, and that's what we want for our children.
Okay, let me interrupt.
Yes.
So, but prior to that, did she have a full basketball scholarship to where she didn't have to pay anything out of pocket?
She had a full basketball scholarship.
Okay, and making that transition to Bowie State, where there was no scholarship, what kind of financial resources did she have? Did she have to pay out of pocket, or did she also have scholarships or grants?
She had scholarships and grants, as well as a mother and support. She didn't want to live on campus this time, so she lives at home, and she's doing well.
Okay, so you actually you and Passion had to put some money in yourself.
Absolutely.
For her via the loan, and then your finances.
We didn't have to put any money into her education as far as going to school, but the other resources, as far as books and rent,
living expenses.
Yes, things like that.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to you. So in making sure that they have everything covered, because Andrea, my daughter had the same. She had we were like, oh, she's going to get a basketball scholarship because basketball runs in this family. But she also said, I don't want to do that no more. So she also had an academic scholarship to go to her school, and we simply had to pay expenses to get her in the dorm. So that was the blessing at that time for her. So I think it is important that, you know, as we talked about finances, where's the money coming from?
Yeah. So, well, my daughter, she had some scholarship money. She didn't have a full ride. When we decided to put her into the school, they gave her a large grant. which helped a lot. It helped with 1/3 of the expense.
And grants, remember, you don't have to pay those back. Grants, that's good free money.
Yes, and we were happy to hear that. But also, she went to the first year or two before she went to college. They offered a college-bound program, and where she was able to see if she would like culinary arts. So she went to the school, went ahead and tried a couple of programs on Saturdays only for about 8 to 11 weeks for a couple of sessions. And with those sessions came, I think, about 4 credits towards the school if she decided to go into the school at the beginning. So she actually got credits for enrolling in the school right after her college-bound program. So that's something to look forward to. In some of the colleges, they probably have something for, you know, juniors or sophomores to try to see if it's something in that school that they like before they get into in the college and possibly transfer. So we were able to get credit, and we were able to get scholarship, and we were able to get grant. So that helped a lot. Yeah.
Now, what about tertiary expenses? Is there is she going to consider, or does she need to consider like a work study or something to pay for like miscellaneous items, or is she good to go for freshman year now?
Good to go, because they pay for everything, all the books. Well, everything's online. They also paid for her cooking wear and, you know, just about anything she needed. Her uniform, because in culinary they had to wear the hats and the clothes and the pants and everything. And yeah, they pretty much covered everything in those expenses. That was a blessing, because we didn't have to come out of our own pocket at the very beginning. They said everything's included.
Okay, so she can get her B. Smith on and get moving.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Passion went to college bound as well, and it was exciting. It was an exciting experience for her to be there. The first before any other students were there, it was just freshman students, and I think that experience really let me know that I need to step back, because I remember her looking at me saying, "Don't ask no questions, Mom. Don't stand up. Don't do nothing." And I was like, okay, I'm not offended really, but I'm going to let her be her own woman and just become, because that college bound, I think, is not just for students, but it's also for parents.
To get adjusted.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, I think that, and I'm going to skip back a couple years. My son played football, and he played football and basketball, but football tended to be his passion, his number one passion, because his daddy told him so. And so he ended up going to Tuskegee University, but he ended up redshirting, and so that also affected the type of scholarship that he could have gotten. And so we had to come out of pocket some money to get him on campus, and so that included making sure we paid his dorm expenses, making sure we covered the cost of his books, making sure he needed clothes, food, and all that good stuff for that semester that he was there. And it was really kind of insightful, because I'm like, well, what about if you need this? What about if you need this? And so we had to have that difficult talk about, okay, well, where the rest of the money going to come from? You know, is it something that we're going to have to get a loan, or are you going to have to get a loan to move forward? And so that was, again, an out-of-pocket experience for us, because we did not plan well to get him started.
And get ready to be your kids' co-signers if they need them, because that's what we do as well, to make sure that they're able to qualify for some things. Sometimes you might have to be their co-signer.
Yeah.
Not a good thing, but it happens. You know, I remember when my youngest son, Sir, went to school, I had to pay $10,000 for out-of-state tuition, even though they told us that he had a full football scholarship. It wasn't full, and they narrowed it down to his GPA, and they were like, he needs to step it up. This is like a trial year.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I lost my $10,000, and my son was kicked out of school because he got a 1.9 at the end of both semesters, and he didn't take heed. But one thing that I don't take a regret for is the fact that when he told me that they told him that they were kicking him out of school, out of the football program, he told me that that he felt relieved. And saying that, you know, I felt like, wow, it's time for me to take my son home, because he's not ready. And they all not going to be ready.
Exactly.
And my oldest son, he did 3 years, and he was playing football as well. He didn't graduate, but he did establish his own business, trucking business, and he's been doing well. He's on his own. He's out of my pocket, so he's fine. But, you know, we never know what route our children's path is going to take, and we don't know what their purpose is, but we have to support them and stay in their corner and also make sure that if they are not going to college, that they're getting a job and they're doing something productive with their life, and that's going to be a challenge as well.
Yeah. I also had a son that got kicked out of football program. So notice there's like a pattern going around here. Make sure your daughter don't get look football.
Our son.
But for him, and I think this is, for me, it was shocking. Growing up in the, I grew up in the hood. My kid didn't have the privilege of growing up in the hood, thank God. And I say privilege as a joke. But he grew up in a neighborhood that was nice and integrated. And so when he went to Tuskegee, he was literally in culture shock. And I remember him saying, Mom, I've never seen so many big booty black girls in my life. You know, so we were, and that follows around the joke to when the high school that he went to was a mostly white high school. And so he said he had a hard time focusing on his studies because he was just so in love with the school and so in love with the culture and so in love with the people. And so that led him to fall behind in his studies. And he also was like, well, okay, they kicked me out. I can come home. And I was like, no, you can go back. You can go back. And he was like, yeah, I'm really not ready. So I'm going to push this back on you. Tell me about how you and your husband helped your daughter get ready for college.
You know what? Now that you say that, I mean, I'm thinking back when I was in college. You didn't have a choice. There was no ready or not ready. They just kind of put you there. And you had to deal with it. So just to hear kids coming back saying they're not ready, we didn't have an option back then. It was more like, this is the school you're going to, deal with it, come back out, be somebody. That was it. You didn't even go back home most of the time after you graduated. A lot of parents wouldn't let you back in the house. But that's when you were able to, I mean, they wouldn't. And then that was when—
true in some households.
I can say another one of the challenges is that I'm finding a lot of kids, two things. One, weed. Now, people that are smoking weed on campus, they pay all that money for tuition, and they can't get a job, you know, because they do a lot of testing. And when they spend all that money, a lot of kids are coming out of school, they can't get jobs, you know.
And the precursor to that is that for your college financial application for the FAFSA, if you have a drug count, if you have a background, whether it's a misdemeanor or felony, you can never get financial support for school.
Exactly.
So,
and they actually have that on the FAFSA, the FAFSA application.
On the website, the application.
Yeah. So it's a lot of things, I mean, that kids don't think about. We didn't have, like when I was in college, I went to college a long time ago. Well, back then they didn't have, they didn't have a lot of those kind of restrictions. But still, I mean,
we just did it.
We didn't ask a lot of questions. We just went because mama told us so. But
well, see, you lived on the other side of the railroad tracks, the side of the railroad tracks that we went on.
But you don't know our side of the track, because I didn't go back to college till I was 27. I wasn't made or forced. I was told to go. It was suggested, but I wasn't ready. I had a baby already.
I kind of grew up, I can say I grew up during racial discrimination. So even though I grew up on the other side of the tracks, there were a lot of Caucasian folks, it was hard because I was always discriminated against because I was one of the very few. So you had the opportunity in front of you, but nobody really put the energy into you. You had to make the decision for yourself. So I grew up in a lot of white neighborhoods, but I decided to go to Bowie State University. So when I went to Bowie State University, and I went to my own culture shock. And so just seeing the difference between, back then, I either had a choice between Howard, which I couldn't afford at the time, Towson, which I couldn't afford at the time, or Bowie State, which was Bowie State College at the time.
At that time.
So that tells on me. But anyway. Yeah, that was a while ago. A little while ago.
I'm trying to figure out if you older than us. What's old? You look like us. But it's okay. You're on camera.
But the thing I noticed is that these kids, not only that, the tuition was lower. You could afford to pay the tuition. And also when you got out of school, rent was about $300 or $400 a month. So you can get your own place. So one thing I advise all students to do, if they don't have to worry about the burden of the interest of school, is to take whatever money you have for your jobs, put it aside to buy somewhere. Because if you keep putting your money into these $2,000 rental places, when you get out, you have your student debt, and you've already put away money. I mean, already thrown away money renting ridiculously on somebody else's property.
Sounds like financial planning, early financial planning.
Yeah, but they have to think about that while they're in school. And then the parents should think about that too, because there's a lot of kids not leaving home because of going to college. They get excited about college, they get there, they have the student debt, but they're not planning way after the 4 years.
Which we should be teaching our kids to do.
And you need to, just because you're there doesn't mean you get comfortable.
Right.
Because it's going to end. It's only going to stay there for about 4 years. Then you're going to have to deal with the real debt, which is going to happen to most people. So while you're there, you want to also plan for what happens afterwards. Do it when you first walk in. Even some people can get scholarships that will pay beyond the school, so you can pay for your living expenses. So keep applying for scholarships even while you're in school.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I applied for everything, and for the most part, I got everything. But I consolidated $127,000 of my student loan debt, and I only had to pay it for 10 years, and that's not even going to be close to the $127,000 that I used. So I say, go get that money.
Get that money.
Don't worry about it.
They have
get
to give
your
it
money.
away.
You need it.
That's what scholarship
I lived
money
in the
is
student resource center in the computer lab. I lived there. I
Right.
mean, I was a student that was successful, and I didn't take anything for granted. But you need that money to survive.
Yep.
And if you don't have, if I wasn't able to get a cup of coffee in the morning, that messed with my mental health. I was not going to be able to read that book. I wasn't going to be able to critically think.
You needed that coffee.
You need it. Get that money.
So let's circle back to, again, getting the kids ready. As I touched on and you touched on, but trying to make sure that our kids are ready. I think that one of the primary thing that was detrimental to my son is that we told him you had to go to college. And in hindsight, you know, in the time that it took for my daughter to be prepared, you want to encourage that while you want to promote it. Of course, you look at yourself, well, look at what I did. You know, I want to pass this legacy on to my child. You know, I got in college, now I want you to do it. But I also want you to follow your dreams, but follow your interests. You know, if you're not interested in going to college, like Shaynel said, you can always go to college, but you need to get a job. You know, if you like doing photography, you need to try to go work in a photography studio. You know, you like fixing cars, maybe you need to go to a trade school. So what do you think do you think that desire plays into a part of whether or not our kids are going to be successful in college with the experience that you've had?
Absolutely. When I kind of look back, I'm thinking about my kids were all athletes, and football, basketball took up their life so much that they really didn't have an opportunity to find out what their interests were aside from that. So I had kids that had no idea what they really wanted to do, and we explored, you know, different careers for all of them, and they never quite narrowed it down. And they're actually, you know, well, passion has narrowed it down, but it's growth. You got to grow. A lot of people just don't know what they're interested in, but it goes to show that we need resources, and we need the community, and we need to be able to also have role models, because I feel like myself, I was a role model to my kids as far as education was concerned, because they know the student I was, not to mention my kids, my last two kids were homeschooled for high school, and that was a job within itself. But they really had no idea what their interests were, and for Passion to finally decide that she had an interest in pictures and videography, that's, you know, that was amazing, but we didn't get it immediately. There was no immediate gratification. My sons thought that they were going to the NFL.
Side note. Look, this is a very important time to add a side note. I think as of 2014, the statistics were that less than 1,600 young men actually get drafted to have NFL discussions. So while your kids are dreaming, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, make sure you smile and nod, but say on a realism tip, you know, you want to look at other things. Mind you, now they have arena football, they have the outside different leagues where you can go and play in the Canadian League, you can play overseas. So you know, you might want to try to broaden that. But like you said,
Absolutely.
they go, oh, I'm going to the NFL, I'm going to the NBA. Okay.
Yeah, but at that age, they don't. But at that age, that's all they can see.
Competitive.
So when I try to figure out what I could have done differently, I'm still looking at that mindset of my child that I'm talking to that can't hear anything else. Mm-hmm. They don't let anything else in except I'm going to the NFL.
You know what? I think like with our daughter, and you know, most of the time when they were in high school, it was like whatever she wanted to do, we just said okay. Basically, if she wanted to try braiding hair, she wanted to make bead necklaces, if she wanted to try to cook up something or whatever, we did our best to try to figure out where she was going. We just did everything, you know, so that eventually when she found her niche, I say if you're going to go to college, go for what you are compassionate about, because I can say from my experience, when I went to college, I went for communication, and I loved it. I actually got a job. My first job was at Channel 9 for 4.5 years, and I loved it. I became an associate producer and everything like that. But then because of finances, they didn't really pay as much in TV, which I loved that field after graduating in communication, I went to computers, and I've been in computers for a long time. And it's a good field, and it pays
For about
well.
30 years?
For a long time. Okay. Anyway. But being in computers, it's a good paying field, but it wasn't my passion. Now that I'm heading towards my retirement time, prayerfully, and that I'm kind of looking towards retirement, I'm looking at things back into what I graduated from. I'm looking into screenplays. I'm looking into, helping in the community. I'm looking into more TV and radio type positions because that was originally my passion. So I don't say I wasted the time because the two, computers, because of technology, it's important for communication. I just happen to travel. But I think it's important that they do try to find out, even if it's a little bit of a passion, even if it's a little bit of you might want to see them in business, but they might want to braid hair. So even if it means while they're
combine
studying,
the two.
Yeah, combine the two. While they're studying, just have them, allow them to do hair or something on the side.
Absolutely.
Or if they want to do makeup or whatever their passion is, don't just say you're going to makeup school because it may not be their passion, but they might just like that hobby. So you have to. It's hard to distinguish, especially at that age, what's the difference between a passion and just a hobby,
an interest,
especially when you put that kind of money into it.
Oh yeah.
My daughter was, as I touched on earlier, my daughter, she was a basketball phenom. Like I said, we did a little bit of everything with our kids with regards to sports. But freshman year, sophomore year, I mean, she was just truly, an exceptional player. So we're holding on basketball scholarship. And she woke up one day and was like, "Mom, I don't want to play basketball no more." And we were all like, "What? What you talking about, Willa?"
Yeah, really.
I mean, and we were truly devastated. I mean, my brother, he was, successful girls high school basketball coach, #1 coach in the country, I think 2016. I mean, he literally was like, "I ain't talking to your daughter. Andrea, she dead to me." Because we were like, "What do you mean you don't want to play anymore?"
Dang.
And so we were kind of, our money's going to be gone. She said, "No, I'm still smart. I'll get an academic scholarship." And we were like, "Okay, we just go pray a little bit." But she started playing volleyball because she liked volleyball. She liked volleyball. Now, mind you, she still got that 4-year scholarship because she said, "Oh, and now I want to go into nursing." So, like I said, we fed into the passion for sports, but again, this is what she wanted to do. She said, "I'll play sports to keep myself healthy, but other than that, that wasn't what she wanted to do." So,
and it can change too, even while they're there. So you just have to be prepared because somebody can come along and say, "Look, you're nursing," but then
she better not change. I'm gonna need my meds when I'm around 65. Baby, can you get your mama some, something like that. So aside from talking about finances and making sure that your kids are ready, and that's also make sure that you have the FAFSA completed. Your kids are in high school. Start looking at it when you're a junior. Make sure that you know who your children's counselors are. Do you think that the high school adequately prepared your daughter for college, her high school?
I would say, I can't remember. Okay. Yeah, I think, but not. I mean, with so many kids, it's always at the end of the year. So many kids, but if you can get your counselor and your child's relationship established way before the end of the year, then you have a better chance on getting your questions answered. Because if you wait like everyone else, wait till everybody says, "Okay, graduation pictures are up. Go ahead and talk to your counselors about what you're going to do."
It's too
everybody
late.
And their mother and their father and their aunts and uncles and everybody are in that office, and it's impossible to get your child ahead. And get everything answered because they get inundated with all those questions and it gets a lot. Like I
said, and you have to start early.
Start early.
You have to start early, and because your kids were homeschooled the last 2 years, did they have a lot of interaction with the homeschool about talking to them about college and getting them prepared?
I think they helped, but when you're a college graduate yourself, and we have a college graduate family, we knew what we had to do, and she was in the basketball program as well. So I'm a resourceful person, that we got it done. We got it done. But I don't remember a lot of support. I remember that the brakes were stuck on us a lot when we were trying to get some help to get through some hoops. We were kind of left behind, and we just had to figure it out for ourselves. And thank God we did. But even the homeschool program could have been a whole lot better.
Yeah. So again, you want to start early, investing in your kids' college preparation, starting at junior year. And as Callie said, get to know who your kid's counselor is. Typically the counselors follow them all through high school unless they change schools or possibly some administration changes. But get connected earlier so that you can start talking. The FAFSA needs to be completed a year in advance. I think the deadline is March 30th or March 2nd or like that. The deadline is in March. And that's the year prior to college. So make sure that you have those resources ready. also make sure that you start talking about scholarships and looking at scholarships. What are some of the places that your daughter look for some of the scholarships?
Well, I do remember there's an app called Scully.com. I mean, they make it sound like you can just click a button and apply, but that's not the case.
No.
You actually click on the button, and then it takes you to a site, and it takes you to a link, and it takes you to some essays, and it takes you. So it's a one-stop shop for at least pulling up the information for what you qualify for. Like if you're a minority, if you're a woman, if you're going in for, culinary, if you're going in for sports, they actually ask you all these questions just to put your profile in. Once you set up your profile and your GPA. Once you put your profile in, then it will pull up the applications that apply to you. That makes it a little bit easier. But other than that, the essays, all that other stuff is on you.
Right.
It's a one-stop shop. So Scully is okay, but then on top of it, you wouldn't be surprised of how many local like sororities, fraternities, even churches, they have small scholarships. I mean, if you add those things up, $500 here, $1,000 here, $5,000 there. You just keep, even if you have to do a whole bunch of 500s. I mean, if somebody's going to give you that money, because they have to give it away anyway.
That's one book. You need that.
Yeah, exactly. One. You're gonna need to talk to a lot of people. So you talk to. So you definitely, I think, even like my daughter, she received a scholarship from the local AARP. So I didn't know, there's different divisions, like number 86, number such and such and such. There's different branches. So each branch might have its own scholarship. So it's good not to just look at the overall big AARP. It might be good to look at the local divisions in your area. So just ask. I mean, that's all you have to do is keep asking people, and somebody will let you know if they're offering a scholarship, because it's free money. They have to give it away for tax purposes.
Absolutely.
So they really don't have any other, it's our money, so get it.
Gotta go get it.
Gotta go get it.
And what about your children's exposure to scholarships? Were they able to track down a few scholarships here and there?
Here and there, I'm gonna be honest. Most of it came from when they started school. You know how you get there's a certain amount when you're in the FAFSA system that they give to students that have over a 2.5 or something. Some of these scholarships were a surprise, and you looked on your stub and was like, I didn't apply for that, and like everybody in this section got this that qualified, whatnot. But the scholarship process is like a job, and that's not my job. So
Look, that was their job.
And I didn't have a lot of success, with it, because it's like you have millions of scholarships, and you really can't find the ones that are in your field. So it was always a difficult process.
Or are you talking about for
I'm remembering my own personal experience, but as well as hers. And my kids were athletes, so we had some different things that were narrowed down in those aspects as well. But in general, because I work at a high school, and I think that we need to employ more people that really take a look at the different categories and the interest of our students to weed a lot of stuff out, because our kids are getting tired of looking for scholarships. I work with seniors, I work with sophomores and juniors, and they don't have the time and the patience to weed through all that stuff, just to be honest. And
yeah, they do.
They
know
do.
My saying is, people say, "Oh, I ain't got time for that." You gonna find some time for that. You gonna find some time for that. But I know what you said. It is.
Yes,
time
it's frustrating. It's time consuming, and those things also come at a time where they're working on finals, and they have a lot of other things that they need immediate gratification for, to where they're not really. They need assistance, and we really need a department and a group of people whose job is to make sure that our students are getting these scholarships. Because when I look through them, a lot of times I don't have a lot of success stories with that, because it's not easy. So I'm here to represent the side that says it's difficult. You can get it if what God has for you is for you. So just keep on pushing. That's all I got to say about that.
You know what else? There's okay, you have the SAT, and then you have the ACT test? ACT. When you take the ACT test, I think it's one of those tests where if you score high on the writing and math part, that you can go into school and not have to take those classes. So I know it's like it'll save you some credits.
Yeah.
So if you score high on certain tests, then it'll save you some money towards your school.
Because you don't need to take those classes.
Exactly.
Yeah, because those will be additional classes that you'll need if you don't score at a certain level.
To think about, as far as getting ready, for some kind of money coming in or some kind of help.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about taking the time to, figure out what your passion is so that you can figure out which college you want to go to. Talked a little bit about finances on how to get funded. How about the follow-up? The first year of college is the most difficult year of college for young people, and about a third of the students drop out and are kicked out of school at the end of the freshman year. I was one of those too. But so it's one of those things you have to make sure that you give your kids a lot of support that first year. So now that your first year is winding down, did you get a lot of back and forth? Hey, Mom, I need some help with this, or hey, Mom, or how were you and your husband able to support her through this first year?
Our first year was our school did a little flip around. We went to considered a private school, so they're no longer going to be available for us in a year. So we're dealing with that right now. But the follow up for her is that she was very independent because she actually stayed home while she was in school. So because she was at home, she was trying to establish her independence. So a lot of times she wouldn't, you have the right to either see their grades, they can give you the right to see their grades, or they can not give you the right to see their grades. I made her give me the right to see her grades, but I don't check
I hacked into my
I still ask. So as far as just making sure that, every once in a while I'm like, do you still like cooking? Do you still like cooking? But then at that time I had to realize that she was in school, so I was looking for her to cook. I'm looking for her to do what she's passionate about.
Tell us what you learned. What's for dinner tonight?
But it was like that at the beginning because they had, at first at the culinary school, she was actually cooking, so she would bring home some stuff from school or play with some of the stuff that she had to do for her class. But then when it became schoolwork, then I realized she was actually doing the work, like doing the paperwork and nutrition and things that didn't have anything to do with bringing food home. So I'm thinking to myself, she's not into cooking anymore. She's not into cooking anymore. We're wasting money. But just keep asking, how do you feel? How are your grades? I mean, if you do have access to the grades, I don't suggest you look at them. Just keep asking them because you want them to be independent. Keep in touch with your counselors too, because like if your financial situation changes and things like that in the year, like if somebody gets married or divorced, the tax situation change, you also have to go back to the counselor to let them know so they can adjust their financial aid. So remember that. So every year, or every quarter actually, was it every semester?
Every semester.
Keep track of what your financial situation is so that it might benefit your child while they're in school. So the follow-up is asking them all the time, like, are you interested? And tell them not to do it for you, because eventually it's going to be their life, their decision. So don't try to say anything that's going to make it sound good to me. Do what, I just want to know so we know to change. If we have to change now, it's okay. It's okay if we change now. It's better to change now than, spend the 4 years and all of a sudden, you find out, I didn't want none of this. You're stuck.
Okay. Shar, suggestions or tips on how Passion's continuing to make it through her last junior year and so that she can start her senior year, tips on how to keep her engaged and keep track of anything that she might need?
I think that the relationship that me and my daughter have is very unique. So I'm just grateful that she kind of takes after me because I have a passion for education. I finished my first 2 classes in the PhD program, and I went to school for 15 years straight and did not take a break until I completed my 2nd class in the PhD program. I think Passion kind of just looks at, my growth and how passionate that I've been about college, and she's just wanted to make me happy, and at the same time, she's found her way. I just support her and whatever she does because she's mature and she's responsible and she does what she's supposed to do. And because of that, I don't mind paying her rent. Okay?
Exactly. I don't want to pay your rent, Andrea.
So, I'm just happy that with this one, we're doing well. There's not a lot of motivation that needs to be done. Passion asks when she needs something, and she's very forthcoming. The baby is not in college, and we're just trying to help him to figure it out because now I'm going through a phase where he's a rapper, he's a model, he's an actor. Did I say that? He's a rapper, a model, and a poet.
And an unregistered college student.
And an unregistered college student. And he was a good, a waiter. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, so he's trying to find another career.
I mean, that's kind of scary.
We're in a different, it's different. It's like left and right. you know, with my kids. So we're still figuring it out because I'm still trying to motivate a kid that I'm not sure wants to be motivated. So that part of it is interesting, and we just have to continue with the struggle. But I do stand on the fact that raise your kids the way and the way that they shall go, and they will not depart from you when they are old, according to the Bible. Y'all know the scripture. Don't quote me, but you know that that's in the Bible. So I have raised that kid, and I was my kid's Sunday school teacher for 6 years at Showers of Blessings Church of God in Christ in Sacramento, California. So my kids have a firm foundation in the faith. So I'm really giving it to God and praying that our breakthrough is coming soon with my baby boy.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, to close on that, I'm happy to say my daughter, she's actually applied to go into the military. She wants to go into the Navy after her uncle, Uncle Samuel.
Woo, she brave.
And so, especially with her, the leader of the country right now. But God is going to bless her, and she's in doing so. She's excited because they'll also produce a scholarship that will help with her outside living expenses because school is already paid for. But she'll be able to go in as an officer and be able to travel and do all her nursing across the globe. And I can still sign up to be a dependent of hers and go on a base and hang out and all that good stuff.
Amen.
But again, I say all that wrapping that stay in touch with your kids, communicate with them again because their desires and their needs will change. But ultimately, you want them to do what's best for them. And it may not be college when they graduate high school at 17 or 18. It may be trade school. It may be that they want to speak to someone about going into a trade school, going to the culinary arts, and or becoming an apprentice or an ambassadorship underneath someone as an intern. But they need to do something because, again, they will be a part of the community. So as a parent, it is your job to get involved early, stay involved. Again, know who their teachers are, know who their counselors are, know who their friends are, and who they're interacting with, again, because it's all support, a part of the community that we're supposed to support. And I'm incidentally proud to also say that within our family are all the wonderful things that we've had growing up. My mom has produced some awesome kids between the three of us, myself, my sister, my brother.
Awesome.
We have, I think, 3 master's degrees, I think 5 bachelor's degrees, an associate's degree, a couple of certifications, and a PhD student.
Yes.
Which is
Amen.
Because I ain't going to school for free. Somebody going to have to make me an honorary doctorate. So I'm here. Y'all know how to reach me. But again, I wanted to say thank you to my beautiful co-host today, my beautiful guest, Candace Ali, and of course my sister, Shar Robinson.
No strength, no struggle, no strength. That's the word I want to leave with.
All
no
right.
struggle, no strength.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't want to do too much struggling. I just want all the strength. But again, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. We look forward to catching you next Friday on next Friday's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents. Again, we hope you like everything we talked about today, but if not, at least you heard it. We'll see you back next Friday.
Amen. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.